Getting external feedback on your photos is a great way to improve your photography, and I hope I can help out a little bit with that. Hi, I'm Julie from Ultimate Photo Tips, and I thought this week it was time that we did another photo critique. So first of all, a big thank you to our reader Kimberly Pettit. She submitted the image that I've chosen to talk about this week. And before I get started, just a reminder, photo critique is definitely subjective, and these are just my opinions. But I do hope that the thoughts I share with you will help you when you're looking at your own images. So let's get started. Here is Kimberly's image.
Now that you've had a few seconds to absorb the image, I want to tell you what I really like about it. First of all, it's an image of water, so you've got me right there. I love the water and I love to photograph it, and I love looking at photographs of it. But the second thing is the light. The light is really beautiful, especially underneath the pier there with those reflections in the water. That's really nice. And I also like the color that the light creates. You've got some great contrast of these complementary hues going on. In the center of the image, there's a lot of really warm tones, and then they're surrounded by some cool blues. So that contrast is really nice. And then finally, I really like the repetition of these shapes created by the footings of the pier, that they sort of lead us into the image, pull us down to this vanishing point. So that's really effective. Now, where I feel that the image falls down a little bit is that it seems to be quite busy. There's a lot going on. There's a lot that's very interesting, but it's competing for my attention, so I'm not really sure where to look. All right, here we are in the Develop module of Lightroom. And before we do anything else, I just have to take care of one little problem, and that is the horizon. It's not quite level. You can tell that if I take the top part and drag it down. Watch that top left corner. I'm going to bring it all the way down to where the sky meets the water. Now look across at the right side and you'll see there's still a gap with some sky. So I know that I'm not quite level, right? So I'm just going to take care of that by rotating the image slightly until we are pretty much level. All right, there we are. So I'm going to work from here. Now, I am finding that this image has a bit too much going on. It's got two very strong elements. One is the splash of the water that goes across the front of the image and up the left side. And then the other is this repeating form of the footings of the pier. And they're both strong and they're both interesting and they're both competing for my attention. Whenever I feel like an image has got too much going on, the first thing to check is whether that's a result of the color or whether it's a result of the lines and the shapes, right? So a quick test that you can do when you're feeling that way about an image is just flip it to black and white. Doesn't mean in this case I want my final image in black and white. This is just a test. So if I flip it over to black and white, if that simplified things, it could be just that the color was not adding to the story but distracting from it, and that might make a suitable black and white image. In this case, however, I still feel that sense of being pulled in different directions and that I'm being overwhelmed. So getting rid of the color didn't help that. So that's not going to be a solution for us, which is good because I love this color, right? So I'm back in the color version and I know that I have to simplify in a different way. Now the first question I want to ask myself is, well, is there any way to simplify the image and keep the splash and those that repeating shape, and will I like it? So I'm going to go into the crop tool. I'm going to just start playing around a little bit. I'm going to keep the aspect ratio and just crop right in here, move it over a little bit, and try to get, just the essential. Whoops, did not want to turn it there. All right, so now I've kind of pulled out, simplified a little bit, and pulled out the essential part of the splash at the left and this repeating shapes on the right. To me, what happens here is it emphasizes even more that these two things are competing with each other. I like the splash on the left, I like the repetition on the right, but my eye is still bouncing back and forth between them, and I don't know which one to look at. So I'm going to go back out again to the original one, and I think that I have to make a decision at this point and choose between the splash and that repeating shape, right? I don't feel like I can have both of them in the image and have it simple enough to work. So the stronger of the two elements, in my opinion, is that repeating shape and the beautiful light and color of the water underneath it. So that's what I really want to keep. So I'm going to go back into my crop tool. This time I'm going to crop in from the bottom left, right? And I'm going to come up, and I'm going to come into about here. I want to keep just a little bit of this dark on the left side of the image to balance out the dark shape across the right side of the image. Okay, and I'm keeping just a little bit of the splash at the bottom. That might be a nice bit of a frame and an anchor for the image. So now when I look at this, I feel like it's a lot simpler. Okay, I've got only one story, and it's drawing me right into the center. Another thing that I think I can do to make this even stronger, and something it's a good thing to try out with your images sometimes, is to see what happens if you flip it horizontally. We tend to read images the same way we read books, from left to right, from bottom left to top right, in fact, but from left to right. And this image, it feels like it's a little bit going backwards to me. So I'm going to flip it around and go the other way. Now I like this. I feel like I'm being, grabbed at the left side and then pushed toward the right side of the image and down into this tunnel, into the vanishing point created by this repetition. I'm starting to really like how this is turning out. Okay, now this is definitely different than the original image. The original image had that vanishing point much more central and had things a little bit more symmetrical. I kind of like the asymmetry, but if you prefer the symmetry, there is another option for this image. That is to come in, I'm going to go in with the crop tool and go to a square. And I'm going to crop in with my square. Don't mind me for a minute, I'm just going to come across here. I could keep a little bit more. All right. And I'm going to put that vanishing point quite centrally. Okay. This is a completely different image. This one emphasizes, by putting that vanishing point right in the center, it's emphasizing the symmetry. Okay. But to me, since it's not really quite symmetrical, I prefer the asymmetrical version of the image. So I'm going back out to that one. Okay. Different things to try though and experiment with. Now, finally, in terms of any other post-processing on the image, I do notice there was a lot of dynamic range in the image. We go from very, very dark, so our blacks have blocked up a little bit, and our whites have blown out a little bit. I can rescue in here the whites a little bit, bring some of it back, but I'm messing around with a JPEG here, so there's not much more I can do. One more thing I'm inclined to try is to warm up the color temperature of the image a little bit. Just a hint. Maybe I've gone too far. There we go. Just to bring out more of that intensity of the warm color under the pier, because I really like it. That's, of course, subjective. So for me, this is where I would finish this image, and I feel that this is a lot simpler than the other version. So I'm going to show you both versions now, the original followed by this one, and you can make your own decision.
So once again, a great big thank you to Kimberly for sharing her image with us this week. Until the next video, I hope you'll join me over on ultimatephototips.com for more great tips to improve your photography. Happy shooting, and I'll see you next time.